Okay, hello students. One of the topics of conversation that we had today was discussing how we actually remember information or how we forget information, depending on which way you would like to look at it. Now, there have been a lot of studies over the course of the last century and a half or so trying to examine this, and one of the main studies basically stated as this: when you have a piece of information that you know 100%. You absolutely have the piece of information. Okay, you have 100% mastery of it at the moment that you learn it. But as time goes by, your memory, your mastery level of that topic diminishes as time goes by, as you see there moving across the bottom of the chart. So the 100% mastery you had at the moment you learned it, if it's not discussed any further or mentioned any further, you're down to about 80% mastery after 20 minutes, only about 55 or so percent mastery after a day, down to around 40% after a week, under 30% after a month, and then after 3 months, you're almost off the bottom of the chart. And again, this is what happens if the information is mentioned to you one time and then never mentioned again. Okay. Now the idea here is this. Okay, we forget about the information almost as soon as we stop thinking about it. So we've got to find a way to get it out of our short-term memories into our long-term memories. And many of the studies are basically stating, okay, at some point in time, the curve of forgetting needs to be interrupted and pushed back up to 100%. So let's say we hear something, and then 20 minutes later we hear it again. At that 20-minute mark, our mastery level's once again up to 100%. And now notice, of course, that the entire curve is higher coming down from this start point at 20 minutes, but the curve is less steep as well. Okay, for example, on the first curve, after 1 day, our mastery level is down to about 55%. Okay, after hearing it 2 times, it's closer to 75%. After 1 week, or yeah, 1 week, the first curve, or the only hearing it one time, was down to around 40%. Now it's up around 60%. And all the way out to 3 months, what used to be off the bottom of the curve is now still up around 40% mastery. But obviously, that's not the level of success we want to be having. So once again, we need to stop and refresh our memory. So let's say after 1 day, that level of mastery is pushed back up to 100%. Once again, the curve is higher, but also, again, less steep, less slope to the curve. Okay, and if this idea was repeated repetitively, basically look at what ends up happening. The last curve that we have showing on the screen is up in the 80 percentile somewhere, where the first curve, okay, after just trying to remember the material after just 20 minutes, is not even that high. So we're actually higher than we were from hearing it once after 20 minutes, and this is after a delay of nearly 3 months. Okay, now I'm going to add a couple of more pieces of information to the screen, and we talked about what these locations might be. Well, what they actually represented was points in time that we might be tested over the material. Okay, for example, when we start a new unit and we go over new material and we talk about it and we come up with new terms and work new problems and learn more about it, new theorems, and we review and we take a test, that typically takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks worth of time in class. So that first yellow stripe, pretty much right in the middle of the screen, that is a unit test. Okay, and over on the right-hand side of the screen, way beyond 3 months, most people were able to figure out that is a semester test looming off in the distance. Okay, now that's where we have tests coming into play, but consider where these curves, if they were continued on, might be intersecting those yellow lines. Okay, so here's the situation that we're in. You can see where these lines, the yellow lines, are intersected by the different colored curves. And if you plan on trying to pass a course like geometry, or really any course that requires some memorization, okay, you got to kind of consider, where do you want to be? Which of those colored curves do you actually want to be on when it comes time to sit down and actually have to take a test? Okay, and we talked about that semester exam. We've mentioned it a few times already, how absolutely critical a semester exam is and how much it weighs, how important it is to the semester grade. And look at where those curves are intersecting that semester test out there. The red curve all the way down at the bottom, orange a little bit higher, but we really need to be up near the purple curve and the green curve if we're going to have a chance at passing. So when you think about trying to just pass in the first 6 weeks, trying to just pass in the second 6 weeks, trying to just pass in the third 6 weeks, that's going to put you in a spot where you're going to have to pass the semester exam, and that is your 70% right along there. Okay, that's where you're going to have to be. So if you're not studying, there's little chance that you're going to be able to perform at that high level. Now, one of the benefits of having the flipped classroom is that you are not going to hear the material once before you begin to do it. You'll also hear it again before you start to do it. So if you do your notes as instructed, you are on the red curve. You have heard it once, you've been exposed to it once, and then as soon as you shut your computer and shut it down, you begin to forget. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to refresh you at the 20-minute mark right there. However, you will come to class most likely before a day has elapsed, a full day. And somewhere along in here in that red curve, you'll come to class and I will go over the material with you again, and that will push your curve back up to 100%, and then the curve of forgetting will begin to decay again. But again, every time we push that curve up, it decays less steeply each time. Okay, so I will be able to get you off of the red curve and onto the orange curve pretty easily just by the structure of the class if you will do the notes that are assigned. I will also do some things throughout the year to help you review and keep your vocabulary intact. So I will do what I can to get you up back to the blue curve, but I may not be able to do that all by myself. Okay, so if you are doing your notes, you're on the red. When you come to class, I'll kick you up to the orange. Okay, but beyond that, you're going to have to find a way to get yourself from the orange to the blue, blue to the purple, and so on. Now, people go, how am I supposed to do that? I don't have that kind of time. Well, here's what you're going to do. Okay, we're not going to have notes in geometry every day. We're not going to have assignments in geometry every day. We're not going to have quizzes and tests in geometry every day. Okay, there will be a lot of that stuff on many of the days, but you will find yourself from time to time without an assignment to actually do. Okay, but I kept telling you, we want to dedicate 20 to 30 minutes of focused, uninterrupted time towards our geometry every day. That includes on days when there's not an assignment. So what you're going to want to do on days like that is you're going to want to flip back through your notes and find a lesson that was a little bit confusing to you and reread, kick your knowledge back up to 100%. Or perhaps if you missed an assignment for whatever reason, go ahead and work the problems out, even if you can't turn it in for extra credit or any credit, because just because you did not do the assignment to begin with does not mean you're not going to have to know it at either one of these yellow stripes. Okay, or the videos are posted to the internet. They will remain there, so you can go back and you can watch videos on things that you might have been struggling with, and again, push that knowledge level back up to 100%. So that's how we're going to get it done. Okay, again, I will get you to the orange curve. Beyond that, it may be up to you to figure out how you're going to get from one curve to the next so that you can have the kind of success in this class that you want to have.